All right, everybody, how y'all doing tonight? I want to thank y'all for tuning in to OneObjective. Guys, we had some technical difficulties getting going here. I don't know what in the world was going on, but hope everything's all right now. James, how you doing today, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Oh, not too bad. Man, I'm really excited about this whole new setup I got with the TV, and I can see you now. Now I don't look like I'm just looking at a camera.
I hear you.
But anyways, guys, we got a great show lined up. We got two of the best in the kayak bass fishing tournament series, the kayak bass fishing world. We got Jody Queen and Jay Wallen coming on. And James, I think this show is going to be really, really good tonight.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, most of our shows here lately have been really, really good. And I can't wait to do this one, that's for sure.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, you got your iPad up. Can you go check just the YouTube stuff, make sure everything's coming up good there?
Yeah, everything's up.
Okay. I don't know what was going on here at the beginning. It was getting all kind of crazy. But anyways, we got her going. First off, I want to thank all our sponsors, Bonafide Kayaks, YakAttack, Missile Baits, AccuCoil, Parapole, Falcon Rods, Ray Marine, and I'm missing another one here. Nope, I got them all. We're getting too many there. It's hard to remember when you got them all right. But guys, if you get a chance, go check out our sponsors. They've been really, really supportive this year. I mean, last year, year before, really great sponsors backing us, and we really appreciate all that they've done for us with our contest and all that. And so we're just really, really appreciate all they've done. So please go check them out and go give them support as well if you don't mind. So, but anyways, big things going on. Big things coming up, James. There's a lot that's coming up with the Classic. We got a lot of that straight with our confirmation getting in for the media. We've gotten our room set up. We got our room set up for the KBF National Championship, thanks to Jason Hensley. I mean, man, we got a lot going on, and finally set up. We can kind of ease back a little bit, and now just start focusing on getting our fishing stuff ready for the 2019 season.
Yep, especially after tonight with the YakAttack tournament sign up.
Yes. That was, James, how long was that when it sold out?
I think it was like 15 minutes tops.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I was sitting there with my phone, man, like refreshing at 7 o'clock because I had the thing for the password, and I refreshed, and then it said, please give us your email so you can be updated. I was like, no! And I hit it again, and then it refreshed so I could go ahead and sign up. But like 15 minutes, that was it. So, but we're in. We know a lot of the guys that we fish with for the Virginia Kayak Bass Challenge, they're in. So I'm really looking forward to that event. Luther and all them, and Jason, John Hipster, and all of them do one heck of a job. Last year was our first year, and I was really impressed of just how much went into this and how much money they raised, and it's a really great charity that they're doing.
Yeah, really is.
I mean, just the amount of food and giveaways that they have was just unbelievable. I mean, if you walked away hungry there, I don't know what's wrong with you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm a big boy, and I walk away stuffed. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of food. It's good food. And like I say, just hanging out with great people that enjoy doing the same things that we all love to do, and you're helping a great cause. It ain't about winning money. It's not about none of that. It's not. I mean, it is about trying to, they have a tournament within it, and you're trying to do with the Grand Slam, and they got the biggest bass, biggest perch, biggest crappie. So you're trying to do well in that, but it's all just for fun. It's a great time. It's no points. It's really no money involved except what you pay, and they got a good chance of everybody winning something. With as much prize as they're giving away. James, you won a couple of things last year, didn't you?
I think I did. I think I won twice.
Yeah. So, lucky dog. But anyways, I didn't win nothing. I'm watching everybody around me win, and I'm like, what the crap? But, no, it was still a great event. And got to meet a lot of new people, hang out with some new people, make good friends. So, but, yeah, I was really excited about that. So, Chris, pop up the hats there real quick. We want to share with everybody. We ain't got many hats left, guys. So make sure you get on to OneObjectiveBF.com. Go get you a hat. Shipping's pretty cheap. The price of the hat is priced at a good price point. And while you're there, if you're into kayak fishing, make sure you get you a kayak keel protector too as well. We've been selling those really well, and James has got one in his hand right now.
Yep, I got one.
So
right here, I got 4 of them ready to rock.
So yeah, go in there and check them out. If you want to protect your investment, go in there and get you a kayak keel protector. We've been running ours for a full year, no issues. I mean, we've beat and banged them things all to pieces, and it's done a really great job. It's done what it's supposed to do. So, but other than that, Chris, what time we got right now?
9:08.
9:08. All right, let's go ahead and start getting Jay Wallen on and see if we can get him on. We're going to talk about getting ready for the 2019 season, and we're also going to kind of do our in-depth with him. He loves jig fishing, and our last show is about jig fishing. So we're going to go in and get him on and just talk jig fishing and talk about, like I say, getting ready for the 2019 season. It's a lot that goes in that's involved with getting ready for the 2019 season. So so we're going to do what we can. We got Jay on now. How you doing, Jay? Can you see us, buddy? Chris is trying to get us set up.
Yeah, I can see you guys. Can you see me?
Chris is getting you up on there.
Good.
But how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. How you fellas doing?
Oh, not too bad. I'm glad you could come on with us tonight and just come on and talk a little bit of bass fishing, you know?
Yeah, man. I appreciate you guys having me on.
That's not a problem, man. So tell us a little bit about what you got going on for 2019. We know there's a couple of tournament trails going on with the KBF, but also you got the Hobie Open Series. Which event are you going to go with? Are you going to try to do both? Or?
Oh, yeah. No, I'll be doing a lot of both. You know, it's nice to have some new alternatives and just add more variety to our growing sport. It can't do anything but, you know, help grow the sport. So excited about that. But no, I'm fishing a heavy dose of both.
I got you.
Yeah.
I've looked
too much opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And something I've noticed too, it looks like Bassmasters has kind of recognized the Hobie Open Series more. So
yeah.
I mean, what do you think could happen in the future? That you think Bass would kind of step in and maybe open a series in theirs, or do you think it's still going to, you know, do you think Bass will ever get involved with that, should I say, in having their own series?
I'll be honest with you. I almost feel like Bass has their hands full just trying to deal with the bass boat side of things. I don't know that they're ready to commit to what it would take to have a higher end kayak series. So it'll be interesting to see how Hobie does, and you know, we'll see if that kind of higher end stuff takes off or not. You know, KBF's also doing a pro series, so you know there's two options for a little bit higher level of competition, at least financially wise. So it'll be interesting to see how this year plays out. And I think people like Bass and FLW, they're watching. You know, they're going to watch and see how this stuff plays out. The thing is, there's only so much time for tournaments. You know what I mean? I mean, you can't have them every single weekend with 7 different entities running them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I think Chad has done a really good job with building the mold for the whole kayak bass fishing series, and you see all these other clubs that have stemmed off. I know me and James, we fished one as the Virginia Kayak Bass Challenge at Casey and Brandon Overstreet run, and they've done a really good job at building this to what it is now, you know. And
yeah, they've got it set up to where it's just a nice model, and you know, all these local groups can kind of take that model and take off with it, and it really gets the grassroots efforts flowing.
Yeah.
You know, the Northeast is a prime example of that. You know, those guys up there wasn't a lot going on for them, and a couple of them wanted more tournaments, and so they went out and started recruiting people and growing the sport and doing their little small clubs, and that's what it takes. I mean, so Chad's definitely provided the mold for that kind of draw.
Exactly. And you know, I've seen a lot of people that was talking about the the Kayak Bass Fishing Open Series coming to Santee Cooper during the startup. And then, some people's like, well, they're only going to have 70-some, and the Open Series, the Hobie Open Series is going to have 200-some, but I don't think people understand that that's growing. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to get bigger. And if you get attitude, the way I see it, if you kind of got attitudes like that, nothing will never grow because no one will ever try to make it happen. Because it takes more than just Chad Hoover to grow this. It takes all of us working together and growing this sport. But what do you see the KBF kind of growing into in the next several years? Do you see them? I think Chad's on the right path of getting the Pro Series and the Open Series, and then you kind of got like your grassroots, which I call like the Federation Series. I mean, do you see it finally being to where you could actually make a living as a pro on the KBF Series?
No, it's not there. This will be a definitive year for Chad. He and I talk pretty often. He knows that. It's going to be a definitive year. The thing about it is there's no, the way it's set up now is it's a buy your way in. It's not merit based, which I'm not saying it necessarily has to be, but it's not a true pro level event. I mean, it's just not, and Chad knows that too. But I understand that's where he has to start. He has to start there, and to do his model the way he's wanting to push it, that this may be the best way to do it for him. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of participation levels he gets this year and where it goes. I mean, maybe, I know his main goal, and it's the right goal, is to go after the non-endemic sponsors. It's one thing to have your bona fide and NRS and your endemic sports sponsors, but if you can go after one of those corporate big boys, that's when you start getting some recognition and start getting some true sponsorships coming in with big dollars, and that's what he's trying to do, and only time will tell if that's the right path or not. I'm interested to see it grow and see what happens. But this will be the year, I think, that defines it.
Well, that's what me and James have always talked. And talking with a lot of the pros that we have in the last several years, and we've talked sponsorships, and the biggest thing they talk about is trying to find those non-endemic sponsors because the market is so flooded with it. That's even down to a smaller level like us guys, and then to the bigger level like Chad and the elite pros. Chad's trying to grow his tournament series, but to the elite pros that are trying to get their money to fish, the non-endemic sponsors are a lot better area to push because of the fishing market's just so flooded. Yeah.
I mean, how many hook sponsorship? These companies are getting bombarded with so many people. It's hard to make yourself stand out. It's super competitive, and if you can find some little niche, other industry, other market that you can somehow tie it in to kayak fishing somehow and sell it to them. If you can make that happen, that's where there's a lot of advertising and sponsorship dollars are out there. You just have to go find it and work those relationships. But it's not easy. It's definitely not easy.
I think that's where the MLF has done very, very well at.
Yeah.
Really think about it. They do that all the time.
Yeah.
You look at a lot of the sponsors they have. Some of them, that Squincher, I've never even heard of them until they left.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a great platform there to really push them out there. So, let's kind of talk a little bit about your season, man. What all is involved? We're trying to get into tournament prep, tackle prep for the year.
Yeah.
And the season. What all are you doing right now to kind of get ready for your season when it comes to just mainly your tackle prep? Let's get there first.
Yeah, my tackle prep is always it's an ongoing battle because I really don't have an off season. I mean, I didn't go fishing this weekend because it was basically snowing and raining and it's kind of nasty. But I try to get out and go to Dale Hall and stuff all winter long. So my fishing tackle is always kind of an ongoing project, but. For me, it's I have to take things one tournament at a time, because I've got, I don't even know how many tournaments I'm fishing this year. I mean, I'm fishing 15 plus, traveling all over the place. So, I can't get too far ahead of myself. I have to think, like my next tournament on the list is Benville at the Invitational, and then I'm in the 10. So I've got to start thinking about, what rods am I taking? What kind of, like right now, my line situation is set up for Dale Hollow. The heaviest thing I've got on is like 10, 12-pound test.
Yeah.
All that's got to come off. So I'm one tournament at a time. It's Florida's first. Make sure you get your line and your rod situation in shape. And basically, if I can get my rod and my line situation where it needs to be, and my tackle, I try to keep it somewhat organized. I'm usually good to go. I just pick the boxes, stuff that I plan on taking with me, and load it up. That's kind of, I just start with rods and reels first, really.
Yeah.
Keep those ready to go.
Now, are you one of them guys that's got to pack everything up in his truck and just go down there and just shift through it, or do you kind of say, look, all right, I know I'm going to be flipping down here, or I'm going to be chatterbait, and I just bring that stuff?
I usually have a really good idea of how I'm going to be fishing, or if I have to make some adjustments, what I might adjust to. I don't say I bring everything, but I do bring most everything. But I'm usually rigged up and pared down in the kayak, ready to go the way I think I'm going to be catching them. Now, if I get out there and I'm just like, man, I wish I had some lipless crankbaits, but I wasn't really prepared to throw them, they're in the truck. I just got to go get them.
Yeah.
I bring almost all that stuff. So there's nothing worse than having the right thing at home.
Exactly.
So I make sure I bring just about everything.
Now, when you get into your, let's say getting ready for that lake, prepping for that lake, how much do you put into, let's say, map prep, Google Earth and all, especially on a lake that you've been on several times? Do you still spend a lot of time on Google Earth or Bing Maps, or do you kind of just take it when you get down there?
Well, for 99% of the time, yes, I still spend a lot of time on Google Earth and Bing and Google Maps and Navionics online and all that stuff. But for Benville, it's kind of different because there's not really a whole lot of good lake map to it. I've been there a few times. I'll look around, but with that lake, you can't see anything because it's like you're fishing a bunch of hedgerows. That's really kind of what it is. Everything looks the same. I basically just have to rely on previous experience when I'm on that lake. But for every place else, I'm always looking because grass patterns change. That's the big thing that I pick up on from Google Earth is vegetation. You can see that stuff, and those patterns change. Where it grows, you can go back on the history dial and go back in time and look at how grass was growing in certain creeks and bays at different times of the year. So I still put a lot of time in on the internet looking at maps and aerial photography.
Now, do you use much for on Bassmasters? It was a big thing there for a while. Now they can't do it, but there's no rule here. So do you use any kind of contact help when you go down there? Like, hey, what's the water doing? You just
I just go down there. Now I read fishing reports online. I'll snoop around and see if I can find some fishing reports. Reading some websites, different guys. Like if I know there's some guides in the area that publish a fishing report, I'll try to lock down that fishing report. But 99% of the time, I've got a spot picked out on the map before I even get to where I'm going. And however much practice time I've got, I just try to maximize it and go see if I can find a bite.
Yeah. James, you got any questions for me? Is there any, Chris? Any questions come across on the board yet? Nothing. What's that? Okay, James, you got anything for him before we kind of go any further?
I think you've done pretty good on the tackle prep deal.
Yeah.
And getting ready. So.
So when you go down, let's say when you go down a lot of them spots, how much practice do you try to put in these tournaments? Some guys who get too much, and I think they get spun out. Do you try to limit your time, or?
Yeah, it probably depends on how big of a tournament I feel like it is. I try to get at least one day, but here recently I've been trying to get more than one day. I know for the Hobie tournaments, I just feel like I'm fishing for more, and the fact that the tournaments are on Saturday, Sunday, it does give me a little bit of an opportunity to get an extra day in, just for my own personal schedule. So for the Hobie events, I'll probably be pre-fishing at least 2 days. But a big thing that I do is I go down, if I know I'm fishing a tournament on Guntersville in 2 weeks, I'll get down there either this week or next week, as long as I'm not fishing a tournament somewhere else. So I try to go, a week ahead of time and go get an extra weekend. That's usually what I try to do, which is why I travel so much. Because one tournament may just not be one trip. One tournament may be the 2 weekends before the tournament. I went down there too. So like Chickamauga for the Hobie tournament, I'm watching the weather right now. If I can swing by there on my way to or coming home from Florida, you best bet I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, the weather here lately has been kind of crazy, which I know where you're at too. It's been the same way. So, and that's something to play in effect too. Like, I mean, you see a lot of these guys. Do you look at much of the report before you get down there? The weather for like a week before.
Yeah, I'll start watching a place like Bentonville in Florida. I've been watching the weather down there for at least a week now. And I'll check it every day. I want to see what's it been, what's it going to be, because if it's, if I know a big cold front's coming through, it helps me prepare and adjust. Of course, I'm hoping for stable conditions no matter what. But it's good to kind of watch those patterns so that you have a good understanding of what those fish have been doing for the last, not just the last few days, but the last 2-3 weeks. That's kind of where I try to put my mind frame.
Gotcha. Chris, did you say we had a question come in?
Actually, we got 2 questions.
Okay.
Under the Radar wants to know, do you keep the logs of information you gather through your off-the-water prep for later reference?
Do you keep a log book of like what it was before, during and after the tournament?
Yeah. I try to keep a log. I've got an app on my phone that I purchased a few years back. It was only a couple bucks, but it's not supported anymore. I don't even know if you can download it. But it's called Fish Memo. And it's got a nice little GPS function. I can type in a fishing report. I log pretty much everything into that app. It's an awesome little deal. I don't think it's supported any longer, though. So
now, have you felt like that's helped you years down the road? Let's say 3 or 4 years down the road, and all of a sudden you look back at it and like, man, this is kind of same area, I mean, do you kind of go back and actually help you?
I've been going back and reading some of it. I think fishing logs are more of an investment in the future, and I think the more you do it, the more that payoff becomes down the road. Making a log from last year may not help me this year, but if I log again this year and log again next year, in 7, 8, 9, 10 years from now, when I'm going back looking, that's when I think it's going to help the most. I get a little bit of help from that, but not really a whole lot. I mean, not yet. I think the longer I do it, I think it'll pay off later down the road.
I got you. Chris, you said we got one more question? Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard it. So that's actually a question I get a lot, because I do understand I have probably more free time than the average guy. But I'm actually a manager for the Kentucky Department of Revenue. I manage the unmined coal, so I assess coal reserves in the state of Kentucky. And I'm very fortunate that I only have to work 4 days a week. They gave me the option. I could do 5 8-hour days, or I could work 4 10-hour days. So I chose 4 10, so I'm off every Friday. So that really helps. That really helps in my travel schedule for the weekends.
I got a question for you. Y'all hiring?
Yeah, now the state of Kentucky's hiring, man. Yeah. But no, it is a pretty sweet deal. And you know, my supervisors and stuff at work, they all know what I do, and they follow me, and they encourage it 100%. So it's pretty nice to have a boss that's like, where are you going fishing this weekend? You know, you got a tournament coming up. It's pretty nice to have that. I don't have to sneak around and, you know,
yeah,
and lie to my boss or anything. You know, I can say, you know, yesterday or tomorrow's going to be pretty nice. You know, I may take today off and come in Friday if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
Go right ahead. You know, so that's nice.
Oh,
it's
man.
nice.
Yeah. I'm gonna be updating my resume here soon.
Yeah. It's, you know, the pay isn't great, but you know, the amount of time off that I'm allowed to have makes up for it.
That's right. We got anything else, Chris? We're gonna keep on shooting. All right. Yeah, I ask that question sometimes too. I look at some of these guys. I'm like, man, how in the world? See, I got a job where I work a lot of hours and I'm on call sometimes, so it makes it tough. But but there, you know, when I used to work at another job, I had that opportunity the same way, you know, and work night shift. So it worked out great for that. And that's just the thing you got to work out, man. Is it's all in your job and what you have and the hours you work. So.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, if you just have limited time, you just have to maximize the time that you do have and manage your time well. And you know, I understand that makes it you can't exactly fish as many tournaments as you'd like to, but you know, you just pick the right ones that fit your schedule and make it happen.
That's exactly right. Chris, what was that you got?
Nathan Green wants to know what his favorite Dale Hollow moment is.
Nathan Green wants to know your favorite Dale Hollow moment.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest, I don't have a whole lot of time in on Dale Hollow. I've been going for a few years. I did win a tournament down there in 2016, but my favorite moment was probably about a month ago. I've been going down there, and I caught actually, I went the weekend before. I fished Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in the pouring rain, and I had one bite all weekend. Stayed down there for 3 days and had one bite, and it came off at the boat. And so the next weekend, I go back for, I don't know why. I mean, it's like a 3-hour drive for me. And I had a great day. I caught a bunch of good smallmouth. And then right towards the end, I caught a 22-inch, just a hair over 6-pound smallmouth. And so that happened about a month ago. So that's probably to date my best Dale Hollow moment.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's kind of get into our in-depth segment there, James, and kind of go over. Jay, we know you liked talking about you like jig fishing. You like dragging.
I do.
Talking about. So I'm gonna let James carry over and go into the in-depth segment of it and talk a little bit about some jig fishing.
How you doing, man? Good so far. What's your favorite jig to throw? Like, what style head and stuff like that? What style?
I probably got most of my bites on a phantom head jig is what it's called, and it's made by this guy here locally in Kentucky, BC Lures, and it's just a little homemade jig that he makes. I usually throw about a half ounce. I've got one here. I was just going to kind of show it to you real quick. I don't know if you can see that very well or not.
Oh, yeah.
Is that in focus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a simple little homemade jig, but he uses good quality hooks. His skirts are excellent. There's a few online retailers that carry him, but that's probably my favorite jig. I only keep about 3 or 4 colors of jigs. I don't get crazy with all the different colors of jigs. I've got 2 colors for stained water, and I've got 2 colors for clear water, and that's pretty much. I keep it simple with that stuff. But a half ounce phantom head BC Lures jig is that's what I throw 99% of the time.
When you're picking a jig skirt, what type of jig skirts do you like? I mean, trailers.
Trailers?
Yeah, what type of trailers do you like to throw?
So my favorite trailer is the Zoom Super Chunk. That's probably my favorite all-time jig trailer. It works good in cold water, especially because those appendages don't have a whole lot of action. But I felt that particular trailer gives the slowest rate of fall to my jig. That trailer slows that jig down more than any other trailer that I've used, and I think that's probably one of my most important things to getting bites on that jig is having that slow fall. And just something about that trailer makes it happen.
When you're picking your rod and reel setup for your jigs, what do you use differently? Have you ever fished bass boats or anything like that?
Oh, yeah.
Always fished out of a kayak?
No, I grew up fishing out of a bass boat. I had a Ranger, sold it for a Hobie. My dad actually he keeps his Ranger, so I fish out of his Ranger pretty often. So I've done a whole lot of both bass boat and kayak. But I'm using my main jig rod is a 7'3" heavy NRX G Loomis, and I use a 7. I'm trying to remember what the ratio is. 7/4 ratio Corrado. I like that quick reel because usually if I'm throwing a jig or dragging it, I'm usually fishing pretty deep. 9 times out of 10. So I like that quick reel just to get them up and get them to the bow.
Have you noticed the difference between like setting the hook in your kayak compared to a bass boat? That was one of my biggest struggles at first.
Yeah, you definitely don't have as much leverage, which is a lot of the common thought for kayak fishermen is everybody thinks you would want a shorter rod. I disagree with that. That's why I use a 7'3", and the reason is because I fish standing up a lot, but I'm also sitting down when I get bites a lot too. So when you go to set that hook, I want that leverage. I want that long rod. I'm pulling 7'3" inches of line in one big swoop. And that's what I want. I want that long rod. So, I know there's some train of thought out there for the shorter rods, but not me. I want 7'3" to 7'5". 7'2" is a good rod too. But 7'3", the NRX has been my go-to.
When you're choosing line, what type of line do you normally go with when you're fishing that?
I'm 100% fluorocarbon. I'm using Sunline Sniper. And right now I've got 12-pound test on there, but depending on where I'm fishing and how clear the water is, I'll go up to 20. If I'm down in Florida pitching jigs or something, I'll go up to 20-pound. Or if I'm in like Toledo Bend, I upped it to 20. Some of those big fish places with a lot of cover, I'll up the line. But really just depends. But anywhere from 12 to 20, depending on water clarity.
Now, when you're fishing a jig, do you drag a jig normally, or do you hop it a lot? Or I know different people fish it differently.
Yeah, kind of depends on how the fish want it. On Kentucky Lake, I'll drag a lot of times, but other times they want it. They want you to stroke it. Rip that thing up off the bottom. Sometimes it's a reaction bite, but a lot of times, I'd say I get most of my bites fishing it as slow as possible, giving a steady drag. Just fishing it real slow. That's probably been the most effective.
What's something that you do to your jigs that most people probably don't do?
One thing that I do, like on these with the fiber guards, I actually don't trim mine, but I will grab them and flare them out. I don't know if that's something other people do. I don't like trimming them. I like them the length they are. Now some of them need trimming, but I just kind of stretch them out like that and just flare them out. And I feel like you can get through the brush a little bit cleaner, and I think that helps with the hookups too. So, but honestly, those BC lures, I don't need to do a whole lot to them. That's about all I do. Is just stretch that fiber guard out a little bit, and that's about it.
Josh, did you have any other questions?
Yeah, well, I was going to say about the fiber guard. That's kind of something that me and James have done for years.
Yeah.
The thing I never liked about trimming a weed guard is when you trim a weed guard, it gets shorter naturally. but it makes it stiffer. You know what I mean?
It does get stiffer, and it's harder to get that hook set through there. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a little bit more weedless because it's so stiff, but there's a fine balance between being weedless and being able to get that fish hooked up the way you want it.
Yeah, and I think too with it being stiffer as it is, I always worry about the fish not holding it as long. You get a very small window with the jig bite to set the hook, and it ain't like a worm where they can run with it until they choke it all the way down to their butt. But you can't do that with a jig most of the time. So
and that's where I use JB's fish sauce on all my jigs. I feel like they hold on to it just a little bit longer, and the places where I fish typically are high pressure spots. They've seen 1,000 jigs, and if you can get one that maybe tastes a little bit better, maybe makes them want to hold on to it for a split second longer, that may be all the time you need. So I put that JB's fish sauce all over those things.
I get one more question on you here before we let you go. When it comes to dragging a jig, I like dragging Carolina rig a lot, and I see a lot of people that's gone from actually Carolina rigs to dragging jigs. Big football heads and stuff like that. Now, when you're dragging the jig, what are some things that you're looking for to make that technique work for you? Whether it be points or whether it be drop-offs. What are some things that you really like to look for to fish that?
Well, like on the Tennessee River, which is where I fish a lot, you got Kentucky Lake, Gunnersville, Chickamauga, all those places. They all have shell beds, and that's probably my favorite way to fish a shell bed is with a big football jig. And I can actually feel that football jig dragging into those shells, and I can feel the jig flip them over. And I don't know how to explain it. That's one of the weirdest things I've been able to feel dragging a football jig is flipping over mussels and shells. And I've found that whenever I start feeling that, that's about the time you get bit too. That's usually when that goes down. And one thing that I've seen that I don't think people pay attention to is when you first cast that jig out, I think a lot of people don't quite let that jig get to the bottom before they start trying to fish it. People, if you're fishing in 20 to 25, even 30 foot of water, it takes a while to get that jig to the bottom. And I think a lot of people don't watch their line and make sure that bait's getting to the bottom. And they also, I think the tendency is to fish it too fast, and you end up lifting that bait up off the bottom and maybe not even realizing it. So bottom contact and length of time, when you first cast that jig out to make sure it gets on the bottom, I think those two things are crucial.
That's something that's always been big with me on a Carolina rig is when people ask me how I fish it. And I say the first thing the number one technique to fishing a Carolina rig is counting rocks. Yeah. If you can't count rocks or you can't count how many obstructions you hit down there, you're fishing it too fast. Yeah. So that was actually taught to me by a guy that fished Carolina rig a lot. And I said, how do you know if you're fishing it too fast? He said, you got to remember how many rocks you hit when you was down there, counting rocks. Yeah. So it's just a little mental thing to kind of keep in your head there when you're fishing baits like that. So
99% of people fish too fast.
Yep.
And I'm guilty of it all the time. Sometimes I have to kind of smack myself and be like, hey, slow down, chill out, slow down. I tell myself that all the time.
And it's easy to do that when you start catching fish. You start getting.
It is, yeah, for sure. Or if you're not catching fish and you're starting to spin out.
Yeah.
That's when I start doing it really bad. If it's getting crunch time and I'm 2 fish short of the limit, and I start spinning out, I start fishing fast, and I have to remind myself, dude, just slow down. Yep. Slow down. And usually it works out.
That's right. Fishing's always a mental game. People don't realize it. It is a big-time mental game, and you always talking to yourself. I talk to myself, and I talk to the Lord a lot every time I'm out there. So, Lord, please make a big one.
I hear you. Yep.
But Jay, I really appreciate you coming on, man. We got John Ween coming on next. I don't want to keep him for too long, but you got.
Yeah, he's old. He used to get in bed. It's probably past his bedtime.
That's right. Yeah, he's been around for 99 times. So You got any sponsors? Anybody you'd like to thank before we let you off here tonight, buddy?
Yeah, just 3 real quick. Hobie, because they keep me in the best boat in the business. Calco's Fishing and JB's Fish Sauce. Those 3 right there. They take care of me, and I appreciate them. So.
All right, man. I appreciate you coming on. Good luck to you this year for 2019.
I appreciate that.
Look forward to seeing you down at the National Championship, buddy.
Absolutely. We'll be there if bells on.
All right, buddy. It's good seeing you, man.
All right. See you guys.
See you, buddy. Bye. All right. Well, that was a really good interview. And if you missed our last show that we had Ed Logner on. Logner. I can't ever say his last name right, but he's a elite pro, and he did a really good episode on jig fishing. James, that was a really good interview you did with him on the in-depth side on jig fishing. It actually went into swim jig fishing.
Yeah.
More than, well, I don't know. It was about 50-50 on it. It was still great either way, and learned a lot on it. And this one that Jay just did too. Also, we kind of went more with the deep water fishing on a jig. You know what I mean? So I think we've covered both all depth ranges from jig fishing the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
So now we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit, and we're going to start getting Jody on, and we're going to get more into the spinnerbait side, more of the reaction bait and all that. So, but Chris, I think he's working on getting him on now. So, James, you taking notes? You going to share those notes with me later?
Absolutely not. I could lie on here.
We got Jody. Jody, we got you, buddy.
Yeah.
Can you see me?
Yeah, buddy. How you doing tonight, man?
Hey, buddy. Doing good. Let me turn the phone off here, sir.
Yeah. There we go. All
Hey,
right.
buddy.
How you doing tonight? Chris is getting everything set up on the
How's it going, guys?
How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Jody, I don't know. Did y'all get much snow where you
Hey.
were at? You got me, Jody?
No, I'm in Florida.
Oh,
When we start getting snow down here, I'm going back home.
I forgot you were in Florida.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm wintering it down here.
I don't blame you.
I'm a snowbird, I guess.
So how's it been going? I know you've been doing much fishing down there, so I ain't even going to ask if you've been doing much. I know you've been doing it. So how's it been going down there?
Well, man, it's been going good. I mean, it's been kind of hard to get a pattern lately because all the fronts moving through. And, I mean, month of December, we had 18 inches of rain right here in the Tallahassee area. So, I mean, everything's just it's way out of whack. But I'm starting to get on them. I hit a few lakes around here. Went up to Lake Jackson yesterday and did pretty good. So, yeah, I'm getting out every chance I get. But I'm just getting settled in and trying to get ready for the 10 and the 10 Invitational right now.
That's right. So what do you think on that is going to take to probably win that event, especially like say with the fronts coming through? I've heard the fishing in Florida has been kind of some tough bites.
Well, man, Bienville is kind of a rarity when it comes to that because the lakes there at Bienville they're phosphate pits, so they fish a lot like Kentucky Lake or anything on the Tennessee chain lakes, and most of the baits that I use when I'm.
Oh, I think we're losing a little bit. I think we lost you a little bit there, Jody. James, we still got you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I think we lost you, Jody. We might have to call him back here in a minute. Man, we was going to get on some Florida fishing. Yeah, he's gone. All right, we'll get him back on here in just a second. But kind of talking about the fishing log a little bit, James. James, you still do? I know I used to do that a little bit, and I kind of got away from. Actually, I got lazy with it and didn't do it no more.
Yeah, I haven't done it in years. I probably need to do it, but
we got you back, Jody.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Sorry about that. I don't know what was going on. I don't know if it's you or us or.
Man, it could be me. The signal sucks here, so.
Yeah, I figured that out when we was down there at ICAST.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
I'm in Jefferson County, Florida, and they have one blinking light in the whole county. It's probably the most rural county in Florida. So yeah, I ride a pregnant mule to the mailbox just so I'll have something to ride back.
Oh man. So let's talk a little bit about your 2019 season. We talked to Jay just a little while ago about getting prepared for the season. What are some things that you do? Well, first off, let's talk about the Hobie Open Series. Are you going to fish any of that?
I'm going to pick that up this year. I've got it on my schedule. I think I've gotten 3, and if I can fit a 4th one in, I will. I think it's a great thing. I'm so glad this sport is just it's not just growing, it's growing exponentially, I know that I think the KBS has been around now for me, seriously, for the last 4 years, and just what I've seen in the last 4 years is just, it's amazing how fast it's growing. Yeah. So, yeah, more the merrier. I mean, it gets more people into it. The more people that fish it, the bigger the purses are going to get, and, it just gets better and better.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's something, I've been talking to another guy that I used to fish bass boats events against, and he's getting out of that, getting into the kayaking side of it, and I think he's really starting to get pumped about it because I'm explaining the Tourney X and this and that and how it all works, and I think he's getting really excited, and you see so many people getting into the sport of fishing now because of this.
Yeah, there's going to be some of those, I think, professional bass boat fishermen that come for the purses that are growing so big, but there's some that just, they love the way it fishes, getting in a kayak, getting back in those places that they can only dream about getting in a bass boat. I mean, I think it's got a big draw to it, period, especially if you're an angler. So, yeah, I think we're going to see more of that, too. Dave Lefebvre up there when he came over and fished, I think that was great. I was all for it. I know there's some controversy about it, but I told him when I seen him up there, I thought it was a great thing. It just lends credibility to the sport.
Yeah.
I like to see Iaconelli and Van Dam come over and fish it too. I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
Teach me something.
Oh yeah, that's exactly it.
Well, it's like James always says, and he talks about it a lot when me and him fish tournaments, bass boat tournaments, is, when you can fish against the better guys, it makes you better. It's hard.
Absolutely.
It's hard to fathom that, because you're like, well, you're getting your butt beat all the time. Well, you start pushing yourself more to saying, okay, we need to make some changes because, 7 and 10 pound limits just ain't going to win it. We need 15 to 20. So, and I've seen that over the years.
Exactly. I mean, it's, you're on the same lake fishing the same water. What is that guy doing to get those limits that I'm not doing? And you're going to find out. It'll push you, to find out. So, yeah, I think it's a good thing. I really do. I'd rather fish with somebody who's a lot better than I am because that's when you learn,
Yep. You know that you need to do better than what you're doing. And like say, and when we fish club events, you could come in with 10 pounds and you're like, all right, we got this one. Well, everything else, if you had 10 pounds, you might as well not even put it in the bag to weigh it. You know what I mean? That's the same thing. I feel the same way with some of these kayak tournaments. You catch a couple 10-inch fish, you're like, man, I don't even want to put that on the board because it ain't going to do nothing. But in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to points, you'll do it at the end of the day. But, that's the same thing. But it's just like me and James. We come into the Virginia Kayak Bass Challenge Series, and we kind of felt like, we might do really well at it. But then we started fishing against some of these guys and was like, man, we got to do better. We got to start bringing in bigger fish, you know what I mean, and catching bigger fish. And it paid off great for James. He won Angler of the Year last year. So,
hey, congratulations on that, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
So, I mean, it's like I say, just pushing you harder when you fish against good competition. So
you do. And you learn more about, the places you're fishing. I mean, you find more things because you're pushing yourself to get out there. You're finding structure that you never knew was there. You're finding cover you never knew was there. You're finding creek bed. You're finding all kinds of things just because it puts you on the water. And I mean, you know how it is. Time on the water that's what you need. You need that time on the water. Time on the water is time in the strike zone. That's where you need to be.
Yep.
Nope.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's exactly right. So let's talk a little bit about what do you do when you're preparing for the upcoming tournament season? When it comes to tackle, are you one of them guys that kind of just opens everything up and starts organizing, or do you kind of make an inventory list, know what you need, go from there? Or do you look at each tournament and say, okay, I know this lake, this bite does good, this bite. Do you kind of base it off of that, or you just kind of go through and see what you're missing and fill it up?
Yeah, I don't make a real big deal out of it. I've got a few baits that work for me on just about, all the lakes, and I try to use them as a base or a jumping off point for me to, when I'm doing my pre-fishing, that's when I try to fine-tune what it is that I'm taking with me. Santee Cooper and Toledo Bend, I use the same baits. Came in fifth at Toledo Bend, came in third at Santee Cooper, so it's the same exact baits. But it's all according to what the fish wants, As far as organizing, I just make sure I have plenty of what I think I'm going to need, like spinnerbaits, jigs, plastics. I just make sure I have those things that I'm used to using that puts me in my comfort zone. But other than that, man, I just take a pile of it, put it in a box, and make sure I have it on game day.
Yeah. So when it comes to, let's say, tackle, not tackle, but when you're looking to the season and you're looking at different lakes, do you use Google Maps a lot? Do you use Bing Maps a lot when it comes to actual preparation for the tournament season?
I believe I use Google Maps more than anything. Reason being is, a lot of it, I'm just trying to find flats. It picks up algae blooms, it picks up all kinds of stuff. So, and even though those, things like algae blooms might not be happening currently, you can still use that to know where that happens on the lake, where it builds up, because it usually will reoccur in the same places. But you can find the flats, the points, and the stuff like that. I'll also pull my electronics out and mark a few waypoints, sitting in a motel room or wherever I can take the time to do it, and try to get spots that I want to check out. Now, very rarely, when I go back to a lake that I fished before, I very rarely go back and pre-fish the areas that I fished previously in a tournament or something like that. I try to find new areas, and if they don't pan out, then I've always got that area, that I fished previously on the lake.
Yeah.
So, I think I plan more on areas to fish than I do the actual tackle. I'm usually a pretty basic guy when it comes to tackle. I like crankbaits when they're hitting them. I like spinnerbaits. I like jigs. I hate to slow down and fish Senkos, but I love them.
Yeah.
And they won me a lot of money, But it's whatever you got to do. What you got to do, to stay competitive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, that's what I'm kind of looking. What do you think for the 2019 season with the KBF? We talked to Jay Wallen just a little while ago, and he was talking about this is kind of a pivotal time for the KBF this coming up year. Do you think that it's going to be able to grow more for the following? Way I want to see it is, do you think it's going to be a level to where eventually you can make money fishing the Pro Series that he's trying to start?
I do. It's always tough to start up something like that. Right now we've got, in KBF, we've got this system, and it's actually fine-tuned to a point where it's actually starting to work fairly well. And I know it's been years in the making, and I know it's kind of daunting to have a new series starting and spinning off that so soon. But you're never going to know until you test the waters. I think what they're doing by piggybacking the regular tournament trails with the Pro Series it's just a litmus test, to see how far it can go in a certain amount of time, and if it's going to be feasible to do it again next year. But I think it's going to take, I really do. I think it's just going to take some work. It might not happen next year. It might be another piggyback year for the Pro Series. I don't know. But I think you're going to see with the way some of these sponsors are jumping up already, like the Team Cups for the National Championship. there's money out there for these tournament anglers who want to fish the pro circuit. It's just going to have to be, you're going to have to get some initiative and try to go out and find the funding for it if you can't afford it straight out of pocket, because it's going to be expensive.
Yeah.
My tournament, I think my tournament fees this year, I estimated them out to be right around $7,000 or $8,000 just to fish the tournaments I'm going to fish this year. So you have to place, you have to win.
Yeah.
Or you don't fish those tournaments. I don't anyway. I have to. This is what I do. So I don't have another real job. This is my job. So I have to place. You know.
Yeah.
I have to fish the tournaments. I fished 47 tournaments last year, and they were trails and opens and the majors. So, and I fish at other clubs too. You know, when I can, if I've got a free weekend or something, I don't rest. I go on. I fish something else.
Yeah.
But I have to do that because that's what pays my tournament fees now. I'm hoping to get some sponsors that will help me out with that. Of course, I think we all do, but that's something that I'm still working on. So I have to place. I have to win. So it makes you very competitive.
That's right. And I see this tournament series going to. You got guys like Ron Chapman and all them. They're getting good sponsors for it. The industry's really growing on the kayak side, and
it is.
I know just for me and James, since we've kind of got into the kayaking side of it, and it's been really good. You know, it's been a very, very welcome feeling, shall I say, too, that we've kind of jumped in and started covering a lot more of the kayak side, and I just see it growing so much, you know, and we really love being on this side of it. I think the bass boat industry has gotten so, and now you got 3 tournament series,
right,
professional series. So the market is just so flooded in the bass boat industry.
Right.
I feel like, you know, so.
You know, if you look at it like this too, I mean, what you guys do with these podcasts, you wouldn't probably have thought about doing that 10 years ago.
Yeah.
There's no place for it, but now there is, and that's a testament to how fast the sport's growing. You know, the more people who take interest like you guys and do these types of things, the more it's bringing people into it. I mean, I think it's just going to grow and grow and grow and grow. I don't think it's even close to its tipping point yet. I think we're still at the ground floor or just above. I think it's just going to continue to grow. I really do. Like I say, sponsors are taking you never know who's watching. It's that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, big companies like Strike King and, you know, FLW and I mean, these companies, they know about us. Yeah. Don't ever think that because you don't hear them talking a whole lot about it. You're starting to see articles now, you know, from FLW, you know, there's a kayak sensation. Just, you know, you're starting to see that stuff pop up, and it's going to be more and more prevalent as this year goes along. I think Jay was right. I think this is going to be a kind of a pivotal year. You got Hobie doing their series, and you got, of course, KBS doing the Pro Series, and I just see it, man. I just think we're close. I think it's going to start taking off, and really, really, you're going to see it grow in leaps and bounds again.
Yeah.
You know, there's always going to be ups and downs in it, so. And it's new territory. It's new territory. There's nothing been like this before. I mean, we're pioneers here.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you know, guys like you and Jay and Casey, he's kind of one of our local anglers too. You know Casey Reed. And,
oh man, Casey's a good dude, man. I love Casey to death.
And he's got his passion for the sport is.
Right.
I look at him, I'm like, man, you're like a freak of nature, dude. When it comes to fishing, you know what I mean? He just does it all the time, and it's awesome. But guys like that's what grows the sport, you know. And people see him catching big fish and doing this, and they're like, well, man, I want to get out and start doing that. So guys like you and him and Jay and Ron Chapman, and you know, we could go on with names, but it's guys like that really help grow the sport, just with the social media side of it, you know.
I think we have a responsibility to represent the sport when we're not fishing. I think Casey does a real good job of that. And you're right, he's a machine, man. I mean, he leaves work and he'll go night fish, all night long, and then next day get up, go to work, and then do the same thing the next night. I mean,
yeah,
it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, guys like Corey Dreyer and Ron Champion and those guys, they represent off the water as well as when they're on the water. And I think we need, that's what we need in this sport to grow it. You're always going to have, that contingent that, the naysayers. You're always going to have that, no matter where you go. You just got to, stay focused and do what you do and represent the sport well, even if you're not fishing,
Yeah.
Get involved in some charity work, pick an organization that means something to you and help out in your downtime. I mean, Heroes on the Water was one of mine, and, try to get involved that way, because it gets the word out too.
Yeah.
It represents well.
And it kind of, you talking about representing off the water as well, is something that I've noticed with guys that that you see them trying to get on pro staffs and sponsors and this and that, and then you go back and look at some of the posts that they just put on their Facebook or their Instagram or whatever, and I don't think people understand that. Yeah. This is a good lesson for people that are looking for sponsorship, is what I'm getting at, is, like you said, represent off the water as you do on the water. Because if you're bad-mouthing other companies, or you're, talking crap about this or that, or just being very negative, companies look at that as well. They want to see your personality.
Oh,
there you are.
And believe me, they are watching.
Yeah.
I promise you they are. Just because you don't see anything on your news feed or in your inbox or something like that, man, believe me, they're watching.
Oh yeah.
So, because they're business people too, and as an angler, if you get on their pro staff, or you get a paid position, you're an investment.
Mm-hmm.
And so they want the best bang for the buck, just like anybody else. So that's going to get you sponsors down the road. If you're just getting into the sport, just fish hard, represent well, and put in the work, and I promise you, somebody will notice you.
Exactly right.
It'll happen.
That's exactly right. Well, Jody, we normally do our in-depth segment, and I talked to you, and you was talking about spinnerbait fishing. So I'm going to kind of turn you over to James and let him kind of do the in-depth segment on on spinnerbait fishing and your setups.
Cool.
All right.
Hey, James.
How are you?
Good.
How do you pick your spinnerbait combinations? Like from Willow to Colorado, Indiana. How do you know which blade to pick in the situation that you're in?
Man, when it comes to spinnerbaits, I've got a pretty simple outlook on it. It's nothing really, really hard. When I'm fishing stained water or something like that, of course, everybody knows they want that big thump on a blade, because it enrages the lateral line on most of them fish.
Yeah.
I just use big Colorado blades, bigger than what some people might think. I use a number 5 a lot if I'm fishing stained water. But here's the thing. You don't just use those big Colorado blades just for stained water. And what I mean by that is you use them for the action of the bait itself. Right now I'm fishing Lake Jackson down here. The water is just, it's a prairie lake, and it's just crystal clear. It's got a dark bottom on it, and I'm throwing a big thumping number 5 Hildebrand blade. I'm going to show you what I'm throwing here. Let me see if I got it. I don't know if you can see this blade or not.
Oh yeah.
It's a gold. Yeah, it's a gold. And I use gold if the water's got any kind of a tint to it. I'm fishing water that's got wild shiners in it. I'll use a white with a gold, just something to mimic the local forage for them.
Yeah.
And this number 5 bait, now what this allows me to do is when a lot of people won't throw these spinner baits back in the pads. I do. These blades right here will keep that spinner bait up just below the pads, and I bring it through, and it'll bump the bottom of the pads. And you can stand up in your kayak and work it through those little lanes in between the pads, and you'd be surprised. It very rarely gets hung up. Yep. So don't be afraid to throw these spinnerbaits in these pads, because I'm telling you, they will produce. But also what happens is if I'm fishing the edge of weed lines or I'm fishing logs, these big blades on, say, like a 5/16 ounce or a smaller spinnerbait, a 3/8 ounce, when these blades fall, it's just like a helicopter falling, and it has a real slow fall rate. So if you bring it across the log and just dead stick it and let that thing drop, man, it just falls really slow, and it's got that flash and thump, and it just looks like something dying. So, don't, just because your water's clear, don't be afraid to throw these big thumping blades, because they will work, and just use them. Just use a technique like that, and they'll still work for you. Now, these big willow leaf blades, I don't know if you can see this. I don't know if you guys remember these or not, but this is a number 5 willow leaf blade. Now, that's a big blade.
Yeah.
And I like to put on as my secondary, I just like to use it. This is a copper, little small copper Colorado, and it's hammered out. But I like to use these blades if I'm fishing in areas where I know that there's really big bass, and I want to get down a little bit, and maybe hit the top of some brush piles or something like that. If I'm shooting for something deep, I'll throw these big blades and stuff like that and heavier spinnerbaits. But most of the time, I'm throwing a 3/8 ounce or a 5/16 ounce or something in that area. I'll do a 1/2 ounce early in the spring if I want to get down above the rocks at Kentucky Lake or drag it across the bottom. But very rarely will I get into the 3/4 ounce, 1 ounce. When I get up in there, I'm usually throwing something else like a big heavy jig or something like that.
What's your go-to brand of spinnerbait? I know there's tons of them out there.
Yeah, there's a few of them that I like really well. That Picasso makes a really good one that I like. But some of the older spinnerbaits like this big bass roller Martin, if you can find them, I find them at the rummy sales or online yard sales. I buy these every chance I find them. Everywhere I find them, the older ones. Yeah. But the Strike Kings, when I get them, first thing I do, the KBD Strike Kings, I usually just take that little leaf off and throw on a Colorado as soon as I bring it out of the package. But the KBD, they're pretty good. If you use them a lot and you get a lot of fish jumps, they tend to break on you. So you got to be careful with that. Just keep an eye on it. But the War Eagle makes a great spinnerbait. Yeah. And but I think out of all of them, those two is what I use the most. They're fairly affordable, and they're easily changed out. You can change the skirts out on them and change the blades out on them fairly easy. Like I say, you just got to watch. I fish smallmouth. I grew up on the rivers and stuff, so I fish smallmouth a lot, and they're so acrobatic. And you catch 19, 20-inch smallmouth. If you get on during the day, every time they jump and they're slinging that bait, and these things are going back and forth. These big heavy blades, it gets them weak, and they will bust. I don't know how many times that I pulled in just the blades,
Oh God.
After fishing for them. So it's, I'd like to Picasso, the one. I had one by Picasso, and they had a little heavier wire on it. I really liked that one. But the KVDs and the what was the other one I mentioned there?
War Eagle.
Yeah, the War Eagles. Yeah, I think those are my two go-tos.
Chris, go ahead. 1 second, James. Chris, you said we had a question?
Yeah, we got a question.
What's that, bud?
Kathy wants to know if you tried the 4-blade willow leaf.
Have you tried the 4-blade willow leaf spinnerbaits?
If I get up into the 4 blades, I have, and I've done fairly well on them, for schooling bass and stuff like that. But usually, if I get up that far, I usually throw 2 just as good as 4. for me. The 4 blades is, you know, schooling bass and stuff like that, I've thrown on and done pretty good with the 4 blades, but I can't tell a big difference between them and a double wheel leaf. They seem to produce about the same for me anyway.
Something too, certain companies will make a 4 blade that does really well when running straight, and then some of them you cannot ever get them things to run straight.
Yeah. That's another thing too about War Eagle and the KVDs, man. They usually run straight out of the package. You know, you can get into the titanium wires with the Terminators and stuff like that, and they usually run pretty good. But every now and then I get one that's kind of tough to get going right. But
go ahead, James.
What's your rod and reel setup when you're throwing spinnerbaits?
Man, you know, it's a little different for me in a kayak because I usually, I caught the back end of Jay's conversation there on the type of rods that he uses. I use 7'1", 7'3" rods, and I use the Muse, the 13 fishing Muse. I really like them. They're sensitive. There's plenty of rods out there that'll work. But I like the 7'1", the 7'3s. I like a fast retrieve reel. I do a lot of running and gunning, and in a kayak, that means you're moving. And if I'm working a spinnerbait, I'm usually working with the bank a lot because it covers more territory. I think there's a dead zone if the fish are up against the bank and you're throwing straight into the bank and you're pulling it off. I think about 20 foot out, you're out of the strike zone and you're just reeling. But it's like throwing on beside a log. You want to run down the full length of the log sometimes.
Yeah.
But if you get parallel to the bank and start cranking and you're moving all the time, you want something with a fast retrieve because on that strike, a lot of times they'll hit coming towards you, and if you can't pick up that line, they'll just spit it. So I like a 7.5, 7.8 to 8.3. I've been throwing an 8.3 for the last 2 days just because I'm running the gun and moving and doing a lot of pad fishing and a lot of grass edges. So yeah, fast reels. I use the Lose, and I also use the 13 fishing the Concept A's. I really like them real well. That's probably about the smoothest reel in my arsenal, I think, that Concept A.
Yeah. Do you throw spinnerbaits all year round?
Fast reel. I'm sorry? What did you say?
I said, what's your, do you throw spinnerbaits all year round? Or is there certain times that you
can?
Better?
Man, springtime spinnerbaits is... I love throwing spinnerbait in springtime. I do, and usually during the summer I'm throwing something else. But I have seen them work pretty good through the summer too. It is a year-round bait. A crankbait is a year-round bait. The only thing is you might just have to slow your presentation a little bit, change a few things up so it's easier to use. But any bait like a spinnerbait or a crankbait, you can use them year-round. Jigs, I use jigs year-round too. I've about gotten away from the conventional jigs though here in the last couple of years. I've got a whole box full of jigs out there, the conventional jigs that I don't hardly use them. I've been using the Jean LaRue swing head jigs, just for the fact that, man, you can throw them things down in a brush pile and the head swivels, and in the cold weather when they're not real active, I throw it, let it hit bottom, and if you just shake your line, that little swivel head, it'll sit there and barely move back and forth, and it usually elicits a strike. So I've gotten away from the conventional jigs pretty much in the last couple of years. I won Kentucky Lake on a swing head jig and a creature bait, and third at Santee Cooper and fifth at Toledo Bend. All that was on a swing head jig.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. Yep.
When you're throwing your spinnerbaits, do you use a bunch of trailers? Do you throw trailer hooks on them most every?
Well, it's cool. Yeah, that's a good question. It's according. Sometimes I'll put like a Z-Man diesel minnow on them. Just if I want a little extra thump, and if I'm throwing in an area where there's lots of grass and I want to keep it up, a little high in the water column. That little thumping, that little boot style tail on them things, boy, it really keeps it up good and just gives it a little more buoyancy. If I want to get it down a little more, of course, I'm going to throw a little heavier spinnerbait, maybe a willow leaf, and get it down, and I'll just use something that just runs straight, like a twister tail or something like that. Rarely anymore do I use trailer hooks. Now, I've seen times when trailer hooks come in real handy, like if they're kind of finicky and they're not really taking the bait, they're just kind of knocking it around.
Yeah.
If you're having problems with that, that's a good time to use a trailer hook. But it seems like if they're going to hit a spinnerbait, man, I've noticed here the last couple of years that I've been really throwing a lot is that they engulf it anyway. A lot of times that trailer hook, if you're fishing heavy cover or something, man, a lot of times that trailer hook will get you in trouble. But now I know guys who swear by them religiously and they won't throw a spinnerbait without them. But for me, I mean, if they're hitting that bait, I have no problem catching them on it usually. If they hit that back bait and they only get, or that back hook and they only get that hook and they jump on you, man, it can be heartbreaking sometimes, you know.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because you just see it all slow mo. I mean, you got that bait just slinging back and forth like that, and you can hear them things just popping and then jingling, and then it's gone. But yeah, I've had that happen a few times. But yeah, I will use if they're striking short or something like that, I'll use a trailer hook. But and my skirts, I usually use if I show you these skirts, this skirt here, this is the KVD Pro model. I don't know if you can see this or not, but you see there's a long tendril that drops down below the skirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that acts as a trailer. So, I mean, when you're bringing this through the water, if you sit, especially with one of those Colorado blades, if you bring it through clear water and you watch your bait, that whole bait is just pulsing. I mean, it looks like a squid coming through there. It's like bam, 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 bam. I mean, it looks like a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So a lot of those skirts that have that style of skirt. And here's another one here that's got a little extra on it. I use them for the trailer. I let them be my trailer.
On your blade colors, do you if it's cloudy and sunny? Is there certain color blades that you use when it's cloudy or sunny out? Or does it matter?
I've got buddies that say the more flash the better, and they'll use silver all the time. But I like a gold blade if it's brown water. I mean, if it's at least a bit murky, I like to throw a brown blade or a gold blade in the real clear water. If it's super clear, yeah, I'll throw silver blades. But most of the time, when I'm in the tannic water down here in Florida, I throw a gold blade all the time.
Yeah.
And I just do because these golden shiners down here, man, they just got that real golden look in the water. So, and I haven't noticed that one outdoes the other one down here. But yeah, in muddy water, I always throw gold. This is what I do, and plus I change the skirt out. Now, the skirts that I use in muddy water, I only use one skirt in muddy water, and it's this one right here. I don't know if you can see this or not. Let's see.
It's like a black color.
It is a brown and black. I had my buddy ask me, he said, "What are you doing changing those skirts out?" And I told him, he said, "Well, what kind do you use?" I said, "Anything that looks like a wasper. That if you get that same color, that brownish color that old brown wasper's got on him, and some of them got a little bit of red on them, black and brown banded, man, they crush this thing. The smallmouth will love this. I think they think it's a rock bass, but they just absolutely crush these black and brown banded in the rivers up home. And I throw that exclusively in the New River when I'm throwing a spinnerbait.
All right, we need to make sure nobody else is watching this video right now.
Yeah, we got to let you go now.
Okay.
Edit that part out.
Yeah, I'll never win another tournament on the New River. I can tell you that right now.
Oh man, I'm taking notes now.
Man, I mean, everybody's a lot of people are they don't. I don't really mind sharing. I really don't. Me and my buddy Brian Elf, we've had this conversation a lot of times. I worry more about telling people where I catch them than I do what I catch them on. I love to see people catch fish, so I really don't mind sharing even my secrets. I have no secrets really. I'll tell people what I'm using all the time. They still got to catch them.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a good example for that is James when we was at the New River, and Brandon whooped all of us, and he was throwing a whopper plopper, and look what we were doing, throwing the same whopper plopper, just the location we was at was crap. So
yeah.
I mean, it's all in the location.
Yeah, that's the way it goes, man. I've sat right next to somebody throwing the same thing. It's just whatever they're doing, it's just you're not doing it and they are, and you just can't figure it out. That usually comes down to they're picking something, they're throwing at something unconsciously that you're not picking out, and they're reading the water a little bit different usually.
Yeah. I got James, before we go much further, I got one question for you. When it comes to river fishing with spinnerbaits compared to the spinnerbait fishing in a lake, do you try to downsize your spinnerbaits much for smallmouth, or do you kind of throw the same things that you would in a lake?
I throw pretty much the same thing. Actually, I throw the same thing in a lake that I would throw in a river. The river is a little bit different in that when I'm throwing a spinnerbait in the river, a big problem a lot of people have, you really make a lot of casts. When I'm working a spinnerbait in the river, of course I do a lot of bringing it over logs and letting it fall straight down, man. And the strike is almost always on that fall. Bring it over rocks, let it drop, then pick up your reel again. I've thrown them out and let them sink to the bottom on a sandbar, and then just pick them up and start reeling them again. That works well. But the big thing I think that helps me a lot on the river is the way I use it. A lot of people will, they fish down the river and they're fishing both sides if they can reach both sides, and they're making these big long casts. You can make twice as much cast and stay in the strike zone twice as long if you position your kayak just a little bit closer to the bank to where you can pitch these things. Because if you drop these things in the water rather than throw them to the bank and let them splash real big, 9 times out of 10. And so I'll position myself a little bit closer to the bank than a lot of people do, and I'll pitch, as I go down.
Yeah.
Or flip or whatever you want to call it.
Gotcha. Skype acting funny, Chris? Skype's having a hard time tonight. Could be, where he's at.
Yeah. It froze up on YouTube. Here it comes.
Well, Chris, you want to hang up with him? We'll get him back on here in a minute. Well, guys, I'm telling you what, if you ain't taking notes on this one, brother, between Jay and
I got a whole list.
I'm going to need you to copy that and send it on over to me.
No. Took them your own. Should have took them yourself.
I think we got him back. We got you back, Jody? Having some difficulties here. I think the location where he's at, he was saying it was down in Florida, and James, me and when we was down there, at least in our Orlando area, the service sucked.
Whew, it was none. Non-existent.
I don't even know how it's like that down there. It just blows my mind. You're in an area with so many people. Let's try to get him one more time. We'll kind of give him some closure here. And go from there. And then me and James will talk a little bit. We've got a little bit coming up after this, and then I think we won't have too much more left. See if we can get him back on there. But yeah, this is, me, James. I love spinnerbait fishing anyway. I just wanted to ask one more question about spinnerbaits compared to chatterbaits, and if there's a time where he much rather throw a chatterbait than he would a spinnerbait.
Yeah, that's a good one. I wanted to ask him a question. I was getting ready to pass him on to you anyway. I have something else I want to ask him, but it doesn't relate to spinnerbait fishing.
Oh, that's fine. You can ask him. Is he not picking up? Jody, you there? I don't think we got him. I think we're losing. We'll try one more time, Chris, and then we'll let it be. But anyway, it was a good interview. It was a really good interview, and I like talking to Jody, and he's a heck of a fisherman. If you're new to the kayak sport or the kayak side of fishing, he's one of them names that you hear about all the time, especially fishing around this area. When we fish month longs and all that, you see his name up here a lot, along with Casey's and all that. So it's one of those names that you'll never forget because you're always going to see it. Having some issues, Chris? Get him back on. All right, yeah, I think Jody's having some technical issues where he's at down there, so we'll message him here in a little while and thank him for coming on. But man,
yeah, maybe we can get it. Maybe we can get him back on some other time too.
Yeah. But kind of getting ready for the 2019 season, James. I know we've been asking everybody else. We got him, Jody. We got you.
Hey, man. I don't know what happened. My Wi-Fi went out on me there for a second there.
Oh,
I had to reboot it.
I know all about those technical issues. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Yeah. I think it was the Russians. They sabotaged me.
Oh, no, it is. They're against us. I'm gonna tell you right now. They don't like OneObjective. I don't know why. They get my computer every time we got a show. I swear.
Yeah, I know, man. They're in it.
But no, James had one more question for you, but I wanted to ask you one thing before we get to James's last question, and that was, a lot of people love throwing a chatterbait, especially after last year and whoa, what happened there, dude? All right, it gone away. After last year with the national championship being won off of a chatterbait.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a time that you'd much rather throw a chatterbait over a spinnerbait, or do you even throw a chatterbait much? I mean, how do you determine which one you'd much rather throw over the other?
Wow, that's a good question. When I was on the Susquehanna here in October, I had fish tournament up there. I came in second in it, and all I threw was a chatterbait. The second day of Toledo Bend, all I threw was a chatterbait. And I mean, I don't really know how to answer that. I think that when they're not quite hitting the jig and they're not quite hitting a spinnerbait, I think the chatterbait is a good option. But man, I tell you that chatterbait that jackhammer, of course everybody's throwing them, but I love it. I love that thing. I've been throwing it and been doing good on it, and I haven't even tried to throw a spinnerbait versus the chatterbait. It's just when I pin it on and I catch a fish, I keep going with it. Yeah. I'm just this is my first year throwing a chatterbait actually, and I'm just learning all new techniques with it. I just now started using letting it sink to the bottom and hopping it a couple of times and starting my retrieve, and I'm just now figuring different techniques out with it. But the throwing real technique, I can tell you, it works too, because I've caught some nice fish on them. I was at Toledo Bend on the last day. I had a fish hit my jackhammer. It came up and jumped, and it was about an 8-pound fish. And when it went back down, it wrapped me around a cypress stop. And I got up on top of it, and I thought, oh, well, I can unwrap that. So I stuck my rod down in the water, and when I did, I was using 17-pound Vanish fluorocarbon. And it just jerked a couple of times, and it busted my line, and it swam off with my chatterbait. And I'll never forget seeing that, because that fish would have won me that tournament. And I just watched $30,000 just swim away with my chatterbait. So, but it was heartbreaking. But you pick up, you retie, and you just keep going. You can't let that get to you too long. But the chatterbait for me this year has definitely entered my arsenal as one of my top picks for baits to use in a tournament setting. They just produce the smallmouth level. I mean, the Susquehanna, man, it was just people were throwing, they downsized their baits because the water was high, and they were, just the bite wasn't real steady, and they were catching a lot of the small fish. But man, I stuck with that chatterbait, man, and the big ones were just crushing it. I didn't catch a lot of fish. I mean, I caught 7 or 8, but that's my limit.
Yeah.
And they were all 19s and 17s, 19 inchers, that day. You're coming in off the Susquehanna, you better have in the 90s, or you're not going to be in the money.
Exactly. Yeah, and for me, when I fish a chatterbait, I love fishing around March, late February, early March through on as well to throw that bait. And for me, I know fishing Bugs Island a lot. When I throw it, I'll go down a stretch of bank, say I catch 3 or 4 fish off of it, I'll turn around go back with a spinnerbait, and been able to clean up that way, and sometimes
use a spinnerbait back, clean up.
Yep. Just go back through and catch the ones that maybe didn't like what that chatterbait was doing or looking like,
right,
and hit that spinnerbait. But
yep.
And it's funny how that works, But that's kind of that's when I start picking. Okay, which bait's going to do better that day? You know what I mean? And then some days you have like that where you can use both of them, but it seems to me like if it's a real windy day on rocky points and stuff like that, or I always go with the spinnerbait. But if I'm around a lot of cover and muddy water, that chatterbait seems to be really, really good.
Yeah, down on the Cedar Creek Lake and there in Kentucky, I mean, Jay Wallen and Eric Siddiqui, and they were all throwing those chatterbaits, man. They were busting some big ones, and that's what really got me onto the chatterbait, because they were just, I threw a spinnerbait a little bit, but most of the fish I caught for jig down there, but they were hammering some big ones on them chatterbaits, and that made a believer out of me. You see that, that's how you learn.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, well, James, you said you had another question for Jody before we let him off?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, on your Torpedo, I know it's getting pretty popular now, running trolling motors or putting the Torpedoes on.
Yeah.
What's your top speed on your Torpedo, on your Bonafide?
I'm getting 5.3 right now out of my Bonafide. That's dead calm, no wind, and no current. I can get 5.3 out of it. Now you put yourself on when I was on the Susky, and it's been how high it's been running all year. I hit 10 mile an hour coming down through there with it. It gets scary when it gets up in there. About flat water, no wind, no current, you'll get about 5.3 out of it on the Bonafide. Now they're coming out with a new mount in the spring, so I'm hoping you might get a 10th or 2 more out of it. You might get 5.4, 5.5 out of it. I'm thinking if you get it trimmed right, just because it's got more trim adjustments on it.
Yeah, how do you like your Torpedo so far?
Oh, I love it. It changes the way you fish, because for one thing, it gives you more confidence. You can cover a lot more area. I was St. Clair. I was running 2 miles, fishing all day, running 2 miles back. I wouldn't have even attempted that without it. Santee Cooper, I had a pattern on Santee Cooper, and you can watch the video on my YouTube channel, and you can see the cypress trees where I was fishing there. Some of them were 300 yards apart. It was crazy how far apart these trees were, and I was just hitting each tree, and I just made that circuit all day. And if I would have had to paddle that, there's no way I could have fished that pattern. Now, some guys would say, well, you could figure out a different pattern or get fishing in a certain area. But,
yeah.
Well, why chance it, I had that pattern, and there's no way I could. It's been a couple times this year that I couldn't have, fished and finished the way I did without that motor. I try to pedal kayaks. I think they're great. If you can pedal, but I've got bad knees. I was in the Army and had an accident with with my left leg, and I can't pedal. So pedals wasn't an option. And the paddle, I still paddle. I paddle a lot, even with the Torpedo on. Last week, I've paddled and paddled and paddled through these pads, some of them.
Yeah.
You still do it, and the motor doesn't seem to spook the fish. I don't know why, because I can hear the motor, you know, when I'm running and gunning. I mean, I've got that motor going. I'm holding myself in the wind. I'm not even dropping anchor. I'm just using my motor to hold me. And I'm throwing 10 feet off the boat, and they're still hitting it. Kentucky Lake, I was using it to shove my nose up in the button brush because it was flooded. It's up like 6 feet. And I was using that torpedo to hold my boat into that button brush, and I was just dropping creature baits right off the boat and catching fish. So, I don't know. I cannot say that motor spooks the fish. I just can't. Because it never has for me. So, and I find that amazing, because that was my main concern using that motor. For when I first got the motor, I wouldn't hardly use it at all. If I was in an area where I was fishing, I'd use it to get where I was going. Then I'd shut it down and start paddling into the areas I was fishing. And then I got in some real heavy wind in an area one day, and I mean, it was really choppy, and I just dropped it down and said, well, if it does it, it does it. And I just started fishing with it, and I started catching fish. I mean, for some reason, it just didn't seem to affect it that much.
Yeah. How long does the batteries last on the torpedo?
It's according to what battery you're using. Now, if you use that 333, you can get a good solid day of hard fishing out of that 333. But the 915 that I use, to give you an example, I've used it. I used it 4 times this week on Lake Jackson up here, and I still had 69% left on the charge. Wow. I fished both days at the Toledo Bend without charging it. So really? I mean, yeah. I mean, so it all depends a lot of times on how much wind you got and what the conditions are. But if you're just out fishing and you're my usual speed when I'm just moving down the banks and stuff and fishing and pre-fishing and stuff like that, it's usually about a mile or a mile and a half per hour. And just using it normal, I can go 3 or 4 days without charging. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. I took it up to the river in August this last year just to see what I could get out of it. And I used it going upstream every day for 5 days and still had 5% left on it at the end of the week. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, it really is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what you call game changer stuff right there. It
is. It is, because it gives you the confidence you say, okay, well, I'm sitting at this ramp and there's no ramp close to this big flat over here that's 2 miles away. I mean, I'd really like to go over and fish that. Well, you can, so yeah. So yeah, it definitely gives you the reach to get out and fish areas that most people who are paddling you can't. And so, people ask me, do you think it gives you advantage? Yeah, I think it does. If what you're wanting to do is cover more water. Now, before I got the torpedo, I was still competitive. But I would have to look a lot harder and spend more time trying to figure out where the fish were and where I could stay on a solid bite for the tournament. And this just takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, man. Just a lot of the searching, it takes it out of it. You can cover so much water. You can get it done a lot faster. Yeah, so I love it. And the whole thing weighs 20 pounds. So.
Did you ever run like a Minn Kota or anything on the?
I did. When I first got into powering up the kayak, I had a 30-pound thrust Minn Kota, and I had it on the back of a YakAttack 140. And when I first got it on there, I was pushing about 4.8 mile an hour on it, according to my fish finder. And it did pretty good for about 6 months, and then I started getting a lot of power loss out of it. It was real gradual at first, and after about 18 months of using it, I was getting like 3.2 or 3.4 out of it. So what happens is with the Minn Kotas and the conventional trolling motors is the brushes tend to wear out on them with heavy use. If you're on the water 250 to 280 days a year like I am, that motor sees a lot of wear. Plus, it's a lead acid battery that runs them usually. And the weight, it's just not, for me, it just wasn't feasible to keep using that one. But the Minn Kota, yeah, you know, I've seen the thrust drops off if you're using lead acid batteries. You get a low battery weight. Guess what? You know, on 5, you're not getting near the thrust. With the lithium batteries, with like Torpedo, you have the same amount of power no matter how much charge you got. So if you got 50-pound thrust or 55-pound thrust at 100% charge, you have 50-pound thrust at 5%. Mm-hmm. It's just the way it's made, and they're brushless. You know, they don't use brushes in their motors, so there's no brushes to wear out on them. So I mean, they're expensive. If you want to say they're expensive, yeah, I'd say they're kind of pricey, but in the long run, I think the initial investment, I've been running mine for almost 2 years now, dude. I ain't had no problem out of it. Never had I had an error code one time, but it was my fault, the way I had it connected. They're not all perfect. I mean, you're going to have problems out of some of them, but the customer service is real good with them, and I have no problem with them. I love them.
Yeah. How much did you say that whole system weighs?
19 pounds, and that's with the big battery. If you use the small battery, it weighs about 16 pounds.
Goodness.
I mean, that blows me away, man. I swear, that's crazy.
Yeah, because I mowed my Bonafide down.
Yeah. So
I need something to help me push it.
Right. Yeah, I've got a 50 or 60-pound black pack on the back of that Bonafide, so I need all the help I can get, man.
Yeah, I probably got.
Yeah, they're really light, man. Hey, you know what? Really, one thing that I really use a lot on that Torpedo that you mentioned it is on the controller. It tells you how far you can go using the amount of charge that you're using at that moment. So if I'm going across the lake and I'm doing 3 miles per hour and I'm using 100 watts, it tells me how far I can go if I'm using 100 watts with the amount of charge my battery's got. So it's very safe as far as not sticking you somewhere and just going dead on you. So you know how far you can go using that amount of wattage. So that's one thing that I use a lot, because I make a lot of long runs sometimes. And I want to make sure I'm able to get back. So yeah, that's another thing. That's another thing that I really like too. Excuse
me. Yeah. Well, thank you for going in depth on that. I know that wasn't something we had planned on, but I've been watching your videos and everything on YouTube, but just wanted to.
Hey man, I work for you, dude.
But no, I appreciate you coming on tonight, Jody. I know we've had some struggles here with just communication and but
yeah, sorry about that.
Oh no, it's not your fault, man. That's Skype for you, and that's kind of the night we've had already too. So it ain't a big deal.
Yeah.
But
guys, I appreciate you having me. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
And Jody, I wanted to ask you, did you get signed up for the YakAttack tournament? Was you ever going to make that?
I got online this morning and checked my schedule, and I think I've got to check one other schedule, but I think I'm open for that, and I'm going to go ahead and sign up for it if I can.
Yeah. Well, you might be able to make it. I don't know. Well, they might let you in. I don't know. I know they.
Well, they sent me an invite. John Hitcher, he sent me an invite, so I mean, I'm gonna try to take him up on it. I guess that's an invite to the fishing tournament. So.
Exactly, I take it because what James Wood said, they sold out in like 16 minutes.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's one of my favorite lake in Virginia.
Yeah.
I love that place.
Yeah.
The fishing there is just amazing. I love it.
Yeah, so does Casey, and that's one thing I know.
Yeah, I pulled into the ramp one night and I got unloaded and everything, and I was like, "Oh man!" I told Brian, my buddy Brian Aliff, I told him, I said, "Man, we got the whole lake to ourselves." And just no sooner than I shoved off the bank, there come Casey. He pulled in and lost right about photos, and I was like, "Oh man, here we go." So, yeah.
I know when we do the month-long events, and I'm like, "All right, I got 80-some inches. I got a chance here." And then Casey have 100, and I'm like, still got a chance. And all of a sudden, it's like 105, 108. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. Come on.
Right. Yeah. You're going to have 100 inches plus, man, in Virginia now, just because of that lake. Briary Creek's out because it's owned by the VDGIF, but Sandy's not. It's owned by the and we can all travel there. If you really seriously want to win that tournament, that's probably where you're going to have to go.
Yeah.
Although I have some on smallmouth that's given me 103 inches, you know, but those are a lot rarer than getting 100 inches at Sandy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But well, Jody, I appreciate you coming on, man. Good luck this year for your season, and I hope,
Hey,
hope
man,
you get some wins, brother.
Yeah, hey, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. You guys have a good evening.
You too,
all right,
buddy.
you too, man.
All right.
All right, well, glad to get him back on and go over. James, that was a good topic there with the torpedo, because that's something me and you've been talking about here lately with powering up our kayaks and all that. So it's something to think about, you know. It's just the price. The price is what gets me.
The price is what makes you think a little bit harder.
Yeah. You know, because we pulled out of the bass boat side because we was like, you know, we want to be able to get out and fish more and do this. And I get it for a lot of people, too, because they're just getting into it to fish. And you start seeing guys with these, you're like, gosh, dog, you know, will I be able to be competitive? Yes, you can be competitive. I mean, look, James, what we did this year, especially look what you did this year. You was able to be competitive with no trolling motor. But it does give you that advantage as in more fishing time. You know, if you get to your place, you're not so fatigued. Or at the end of the day, you're not so fatigued when you come off the water, you know, when you got a motor to help push you, get you where you need to go. So
absolutely.
That's just a few things we've been looking at for the coming up year. We want to hit it a little harder. And speaking of that, Chris, I know you got the schedule gearing to come up there. This is I meant to talk about this earlier, which was the Virginia Kayak Bass Challenge Series. They got their schedule up. I know a couple of guys I've been talking to was asking about it, so I wanted to make sure we had it up there again. And then also Brandon M's been working on the Virginia Kayak Bass Challenge stickers. So it's a lot of big things happening for the Virginia Kayak Bass Challenge this year. I'm looking forward to getting back on the water with them guys. They're all a bunch of good guys. We always have a good time. I don't think we've ever had no issues going out fishing with them guys. They've all been just great guys, you know.
They really have. They really have.
They all accept you in, arms wide open, you know, when you come in. And you know, some clubs are kind of, you know, just fishing with bass stuff and bass boat stuff is, you know, I'm not knocking them guys, but you know, some of them are kind of nervous going into it, and some of them, you know, some guys are really great, and some guys are looking at you, well, that's more competition coming in, you know, and takes a little while to warm up to you, but we've had a great time with the Virginia Kayak Bass Challenge Series, but yeah, hopefully we get our kayaks powered up. I'm getting ready, getting excited about the national championship. That was, that's something I wanted to talk to you, James, a little bit about was, you know, I know we've been getting ready. We've been getting stuff ready for the Classic and all that. And have you been doing much with getting ready for the national championship?
I actually just been working on the kayak, just trying to get it set up.
Yeah.
I've been working on a few things with that, and then I'm making a list and checking it twice, and just trying to get things ready.
Yeah.
You know, seeing what we need to prepare for, what we need to buy. You know, pretty much doing the same thing I think that you have been doing.
Yeah.
What's some of the stuff that you've been doing?
My main thing is just trying to figure out what I'm going to need at Louisiana. You know, I know it's going to be a flipping bite mainly for me, anyways. I don't, you know, what everybody else is going to be doing. That's mainly what I'm going to be doing. So I'm trying to make sure I got those baits set up primarily, and then also I'll go to my secondary patterns that I'm going to try to make happen if, you know, A, B, C, D, and E, and F don't work. So,
yeah.
You know, just trying to get that right. You know, it's nice because, like, Jason Hensley found us a cabin that we could all stay at down there. So now, you know, we've been wanting to work on the trailers, but now it's not a rush to get that done. So, you know, there's a few things I still like to have done before I go down there, but I think it's great for us. Now we can just mainly focus on getting ready for the Bassmasters Classic coming up, which I'm really excited about that, going to Knoxville. That's going to be a fun event. That's going to be a river event. But then also, you know, when we go to that, we'll come back and we'll be here for a week, and then it's load up time and head on down. So I feel like that just took a lot of the weight off of our shoulders when Jason found that place, and you know, we don't have to worry about getting it ready to stay in for a whole week, you know. So
yep,
really excited about that. But other than that, you know, I got a few little extra rods I want to getting ready for this year. Not mainly just for the national championship, but this year for our tournament series and just out filming. There's a couple rods that Falcon's got out that I'm really interested in. Getting ready for, you know, like I say, we was talking about earlier, spinnerbait fishing. You know, we did a thing on swim jig fishing. I'm going to try to get into more of that. So I'm trying to get some stuff prepared for that as well this coming up year. But other than that, same thing, like I say, just kind of going through tackle. I'm going to be putting together a little video about, you know, the whole thing for the national championship. Kind of like a whole vlog for the whole national championship, tackle prep, all that. So that'll be a little while after national championship once I get all that together. But kind of on the video side, I promise we'll get some videos out this week. It's been a struggle with my work schedule. James, you've been working a pile of hours as well. We just haven't been able to get out the videos. It's been tough. And like I said, I had a bunch of videos recorded, but something screwed up with my camera being too close to my modem and jacked my speakers all up, so it was all retarded. But I don't even want to get into all the technical crap with that. But so I promise we got some more videos coming up. Stay tuned. I'm just ready to get the spring going, man. Get on the water and start doing some fishing, shoot some videos. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Other than that, man, do you got anything else you wanted to add for tonight's show?
No, man. I just wanted to thank everybody for tuning in, and I hope it was informative. I know I took down some notes, so hopefully y'all did too. So thank y'all for tuning in.
Yeah. Thanks everybody. Want to thank again all our sponsors. You can see them scrolling through on the top of the screen there. Also, please, if you haven't yet, I should have said this at the beginning, please subscribe to our channel. Please hit the bell button. That way you get a warning every time that our new show comes out. Chris, he's subscribed, and he's got the bell button. And as soon as the show was set up, ready to go, he was notified that the show's going to come up. So make sure you do that so you don't miss another show. But also, you'll be able to catch it on iTunes. It won't be tomorrow. Well, I might have it all downloaded once I get off of work and get it up tomorrow afternoon. But I apologize for that taking a little bit longer because we got to do a whole recording session with that. But anyways, it'll be up this week. I promise you that. Hopefully tomorrow night, so you can listen to it Tuesday morning. But just thank all our sponsors. Check out our website, OneObjectiveBF.com, for your keel protector, your hat, for our hat, and also all our newest videos, all our posts from Facebook and Instagrams, all up there. And that's about it. There was something else I wanted to add, but I forgot. Oh, please like the video if you like our show. All the likes we get really help us out getting our show out there and promote, getting in front of more people, the more likes we get. So if you can, hit the like button. Other than that, guys, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We got another show scheduled for next Sunday, hopefully. Nah, we will. Just got to get a guest list together and figure out what we'll do. But other than that, guys, y'all have a great weekend or a great work week and a safe week. And, oh, Richmond Fishing Expo, we'll be there. James, I don't know about you. Are you still going to make it?
I hope I am. Okay. I'd rather be there more to be if not.
I understand that. So yeah, we got that's coming up. The Richmond Fishing Expo is coming up. Me and Chris will definitely be there. So if you see us, come shake hands, talk fishing. We don't care. We love talk fishing with anybody. So and hopefully James will be by our side too. So, but other than that, guys, everybody have a great weekend, great week. We'll talk to you guys later. See ya.
Good night.